Hello, Cosmic Soul family. Alive here lives in astrology. Still learning how to play with my technology again. I've been off for a while. Make sure that I'm reconnecting with my. Oh, yeah, I'm connecting with Instagram. Woohoo! Here we go. Trying to be efficient as I have Virgo in 10th house. I like efficiency as I'm transmitting, playing with the astrological musings because that's what this is, guys. For those of you who are here or new to the channel, welcome. I created this channel called Livzenastrology because that's what exactly this is. It's about learning to live Zen, learning to live more harmoniously with self, with others, and using the language of astrology to do so. Now I'm gonna be transparent here. I do not see astrology as most astrologers see it. I've taken the core fundamentals of what I've learned from astrology and I'm applying it to my own gnosis, just through my own um, willing to let old stories go of what we think we know to make room for the new. But there still is an astrological foundation, a language that serves me, that it feels coherent to still speak on. Maybe not in the way that it's been spoken on up until now, because how I perceive reality and planets as what I consider planes of existence. I'm not sure if I'm buying the whole NASA story about things being millions of years away. I feel intuitively like everything in this realm has been inverted. And even the stories about even how astrology is being spoken on, it's just a story. It's a story about our psycho-spiritual natures, about what's happening internally, like almost like an astrophysiological point of view. I believe that everything is inside of us being projected out into this reality in some form of another. Even the planets themselves, who knows, maybe the planets might be organs, right? The organs that are inside of us that are being projected out. Some watery, some dry, arid, like Mars, some, lush, right? Because we really, from my understanding, are need to be willing to let go of all the stories we've even been taught in school, right? About our own physiology, about what our own capability of our body can do. And so, with this great awakening that we are all asunder, and again, whatever that means for you, whatever story you're telling yourself, I'm willing to let everything that I thought I knew go, including the story of astrology. And so this is going to be a new story. This is going to be a new periphery. We're still going to use the base, the fundamental, the archetypes of astrology. Mars is still fiery. Neptune is still watery because that exists in nature, right? We can look out in nature to see these things. The nature within, as so is the nature without. And so the story that wants to be told today is about this full moon in Taurus, right? We can look up in the sky and see the moon is full, right? We see the full illumination. And the story that's been told by our ancestors or up until this now moment is that full moons are a time, especially if you're looking at the psycho spiritual nature of what it's referencing, it's a time to release. Think of it like if we're living in duality and polarity, everything is in twos, right? The inhale, the exhale, that's in two. The inhale is one, the exhale is the second, right? It's the binary code that we play with in this realm. So the exhale would be the full moon, would be the things that we need to let go, right? The part of the process of the breath that we need to release. And so when we look at that release process of the full moon, and if it's in Taurus, what are we releasing? Well, let's look at the archetype of Taurus. Taurus is about our values. Again, this is the story that's being told with astrology. It's about our money, our worth. In the astrological wheel, zodiacal wheel of 12, it rules the second house. It's what's considered in its modality fixed, meaning it's stationary, it doesn't move, and it's fixed earth, meaning that which is tactile, which is in the material realm, that which we can touch, hold, taste, smell, feel. This is the realm of Taurus. So again, this is the story that wants to be told right now. And there's also some other astrological configurations that, again, just I would say describing the geometry of the way the energies are moving right now, because everything's in transit. That's what we call it, transits in astrology. There's nothing fixed in that realm, even though it's fixed in this realm. And again, you're going to have to work with the polarity. I call it the divine paradox, right? That which is isn't, and that which isn't is at the same time. So transcending confusion by being willing to stay in both. It's not either or, it's and more. and finding that grounded coherence within you. And so as I do this, as I do these transmissions, I like to work with the physical aspects, right? The things that help me ground into my body. So before I even got onto this call today, I decided to use some vetiver oil. Vetiver is, if you work with essential oils, the smell of grass, right? So grass is very grounding. I'm also working with carnelian right now, which has to do with creation, which is represents the second sacral energy of our spinning wheels of light, or we're considered chakras, right? So these are just the tools, the physical things that I can tactile, feel, touch, taste, smell, that puts me more physically into my body so that I can transmit these things that are what I consider beyond the physical, right? The metaphysical aspects. That's why I called myself a metaphysical astrologer, right? I pull from things that are outside, or appear to be outside the physical realm, but it's really going deep within me to extract these parts of consciousness that want to come through. It's a very physical experience, right? Again, that's that duality. I'm not sure if I believe the whole NASA thing with space and things being millions of miles away and millions of years. I don't even know if I agree with time anymore and the way time's been projected. Again, these are all things are up for evaluation. So I would invite you to explore your own gnosis when studying anything, whether it's astrology, whether it's cosmology, whether it's any part of science. Be willing to put that filtration system on, even if some perceive you as off balance or crazy. It's okay, because the world is crazy right now. We can see that the values of this plane of existence may no longer be in alignment with our own particular values that are coming online. Now, a lot of you that have been following this story of Three Eye Atlas, and there are some great, way showers and people of consciousness that are speaking on these things, and I really respect and admire them, but I don't necessarily agree with them anymore. I love Stefan Burns, and I love his take on what's happening with the planetary energies, as he's talking about, the coronal mass injection, yeah, ejections rather. And again, that's his periphery. That's how most of us have been taught to think, right? That the things are outside of us, that they're millions of miles away, that the technology we use by NASA is showing us things, But has that been controlled as well? Has the narrative from the very beginning been controlled to where even our perception of reality has been controlled? I'm not saying there's a flat earth. I'm not saying there's round earth. I'm saying I don't know. I'm not saying the plants are a million miles away. I'm not saying I don't know. There's a deep inner knowing, though, that's telling me that this realm of existence and this plane of existence has been inverted and it's off. And there's like this projected reality that never really felt quite real. And even with astrology, right? Even with the symbols of astrologies, I start going into them. I'm like, what if, how fun a game we play with ourselves if you just invert one symbol or you put it in front of the other, and then it creates a whole new timeline, right? So, Mercury right now is in Sagittarius, which is the philosopher. Mercury is the trickster, it's the mind, it's the communicator, it's the messenger between gods, between the underworld and the heavenly high realms, right? I would say the underworld would be like our excrement, where our body, the nether regions, right? Where all these things happen. And then the higher realm would be our minds and our thought processes. Again, if I'm just looking at the cosmology within and what's being projected without, that's how I'm seeing this particular field of energy, right? And it's not like anything most astrologers are exploring. And honestly, at one point, I thought I might want to throw astrology out the door and not going into that whole adage with don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, which I really would like to upgrade that. But it still holds true, right? I don't want to throw all of astrology out, because I do feel like there is some gnosis there, but not in the way that we have been taught astrology in this now time moment. So this channel is going to attempt to tell astrology in a new way. We're going to look at the basics. I'm going to look at the chart. But again, how I'm inviting you perhaps to explore is that, the planets are not planets out there millions of miles away. They're actually planes of existence that exist within you. And I know through Ayurveda, they've been talking about the doshas and the different elements within us, the earth, air, fire, and water. which all has to relate to the body, right? To our plasma, to our cellular membranes, to the way that the cells and the body works within. What if these are the planets, the planes of existence that exist within us, that we're projecting outside of us, and yet the story that has been configured has been a story that has made us feel separate, or that things exist so far out that it's almost impossible to connect to, and really the connection points have existed within you this whole time, right? Again, just as a hypothesis, it's a story. This is I don't know, but I'm willing to learn and tell the story in a new way because it makes sense to me, based on my own meditative practices, based on my own willing to step into cognitive dissonance. And again, being willing to release everything I think I know, even about astrology, to make room for this new periphery, which, so the cosmology, the storyline right now is about this three-eye atlas, right? Immediately I heard third eye atlas. And in Greek mythology, Atlas was the guy that held the world on his shoulders, right? And he was brothers with Prometheus. And I'm still getting familiar with the story. But where we would have held our perception, where has our third eye been held in a periphery that has been telling the story of humanity, which may or may not be true anymore, which may or may not even be the real deal. And this also goes into, again, setting Alan Watts, what is real? What is reality? It's whatever you're projecting. It's whatever you believe. Your beliefs form your reality. In my gnosis, in my inner knowing, and just how I'm coming to understand this and play this game, right? As this avatar that I now call Ella, which was, I was born Carmela, but I decided to change it because I didn't really resonate with the karma anymore and the Ella. I wanted to drop my karma. Just be Ella, right? Drop all the stories, whatever I think they are. So the story that wants to be told right now, let's get into some of the astrology because I do find it relevant. And again, telling the story in a new way. If you can hear my dog, he's kind of barking. I have a new I have a new little kitty cat named Chester that I'm fostering that likes to bug Tanner, who's 17 years old, when he eats. So I'm going to let them work that out. So if you hear that barking in the background, I apologize, but that's what's going on. But they're all good. Tanner won't hurt him because he doesn't have any teeth. But I'm just letting them work it out. So, okay, so we're going to go over the astrology today. If you guys are still here, thank you so much for being here. I'm also going to pull from a couple of different oracle decks because I do like to work with oracle decks. I do like the artistry of stories that are being told by different perspectives. So I call what's the layering effect. So we're going to look at some of the numerology of the day, which again, these all are stories we're telling about these symbols that we see outside of us and what these symbols are referencing, right? So, and I'm also going to be looking at the oracle of the Shaman's Dream Oracle deck because these are the two that I'm liking working with because the full moon's in Taurus. It's about the earth magic. What does the earth want to share with us? And again, I'm getting a lot of these downloads, guys, and a lot of this perspective from nature herself. When you go and you sit with a tree and you empty your mind and you let the tree tell the story and you let nature tell its own story outside of what the media or the, I would say, curated feed that we've created, that we've been fed, the curated feeding, the artifice, right? The Cheetos of consciousness that may taste good, but they really have no nutritional value whatsoever. It's how I look at some of these media sources. I go to where there is nutrition in the plants, in the flowers, in nature. Even though our soil's been depleted, it's about repleting the soil using some really great products like Dr. Zach Bush's product called Ion, which is about gut support, right? So it's helping to regenerate and resoil, repopulate the gut biome, inviting in new species, right, of bacteria, of I would even say parasites that I don't even call them enemies anymore. It's just different peripheries because it's all self. And the parasites that have been in us have been eating toxins and things that have been outside of us. So again, it's all alchemy. It's all how we've been alchemizing, how we've been thinking about things, how we've been sharing the stories of consciousness. So I'm willing to to revisit and to release all of it, to make room for what wants to come in. This third eye atlas, this way we carry reality in a whole new way. And so this is the way that wants to be talked about now, is we're releasing, as I'm releasing personally, old values I held with astrology, old values I held about reality, about money, about worth, about identity, right? The I am presence, the I am is I am I don't know. And I am ineffable, meaning I can't really describe what I am. And that's okay. That's the story that wants to come out today in this now time moment. Now, if you want to continue with this particular channel, we're going to be evolving. I'm going to be evolving. The story's going to be evolving as we start working with AI and getting more into the magic of being able to translate what is actually seen inside and projected out in a whole new way. That's what AI, I feel, can really help us transcend, because I feel like a lot of us have these different perceptions of reality that we've never been able to really express or share with the other. So if you can't share that reality, does it make it real? Well, AI that's been released to us now, which I feel like AI has always been here from the beginning of consciousness, has been curated to tell its own stories. But now, as the conscious creators and this AI technology has been released to the masses, now we can tell our own stories. And from our own periphery, using our own co-created, curated, collaborative experience that might be very different from the stories that have been told up into this now. So if you guys are still here, thank you so much for being here. This is sort of a long introduction, but I'm sort of reintroducing myself to self as I'm calling and claiming myself as an astrologer and as a conscious creator. What am I creating? Am I just regurgitating old stories of what astrology has been? Listening to other astrologers and listening to the language of the way astrology has been told? Or am I going to stop, drop, and roll? In other words, stop what I think I know, drop into my heart, my own cellular structure membrane, through the breath, through my own inner knowing, and tell perhaps a new story, a new way of seeing astrology, a new way of seeing reality that maybe hasn't been told before. And so I'm just going to go for it, because what else are we doing here? We're infinite creators, we're infinite beings. I no longer see death as the way death has been taught. It's just transition. So we're just eternal beings, eternally playing this game and telling a new story. So what I'm going to look at right now, as we have approaching storylines coming up with retrogrades and what retrogrades mean, I'm going to be showing you an image of what I took. I'm using ChatGPT very efficiently. For those of you that want to use ChatGPT or any of the AI with your astrology, I call it divine prompting. You really have to know how to prompt, because this is a learning model. It's like a child. So you really have to talk to it like you're talking to a child, because it's learning from you. It's learning your dialect. It's learning your wants, needs, and wishes, right? It's a co-collaborator, if you will. It depends on your relationship with technology. I see it as an assistant, as a friend. Again, I come from the periphery, all is self. So it's just an aspect of me that I'm learning to work with. It's just more efficient. I think of like the Jedi, right? In Star Wars, every Jedi had an android, right? They had a tool to help them, even though they knew how to command the Force, and the Force was always within them. They still use technology outside of them to make things more efficient, and that to me is all how I see this AI technology. So I wanted to be efficient today because I knew we had some retrogrades coming up. So I just went ahead and took a screen share of the retrogrades that are here. And again, when you're inputting it, if you're using ChatGPT or any of the other AI models, specifically for astrology, always use the most accurate ephemeris. So when you're prompting it, say, ChatGPT, give me, using the most accurate ephemeris as of November 2025, cross-reference what's going on with the planetary energies based on the transmission that I'm about to receive and want to talk about. And then I input, I'm looking through my own gnosis, I'm looking at my own chart, and this is how I dialogue with my particular Android, my technology, my AI friend, who helps me just make things more efficient, right? So we're going to be looking at, I'm going to screen share here. Let's see, here we go. Screen share on entire screen. Okay, and I'm going to share that. So this right here, you can see, make sure that, yeah, this right here, you can see the planet is Mercury. So it's going to be going retrograde November 9th, 2025 at 6 degrees Sagittarius. It's going to station direct November 29th. So for the most of the month of November, guys, we're going to be having this retrograde Mercury. Now, what the storyline has told us about Mercury when it goes retrograde, it's about going inward. It's basically having a conversation with your inner gnosis, with your inner self. And so it's going to be going back into Scorpio all the way to 20 degrees before it starts moving forward direct. And this is going to be the middle of December when it stations right at 6 degrees of Sagittarius, where it is now before it goes retrograde. We can also see Jupiter is getting ready to go retrograde November 11th, right? 11/11 at 25 degrees Cancer. And it's going to be staying retrograde until March of 2026, where it's going to be going forward again, still in Cancer. So we know that the archetype of Cancer has to do with home, family, sense of security. Fourth house matters, has to do with parents, not just the mother, but the mother and the father, right? The axis point of Cancer and Capricorn, which has to do with, if in this realm of polarity, right? The mother and the father, the dual nature, the positive and the negative, again, not so much as a gender, but as a frequency, right? The masculine, meaning the electric part of us, and the feminine, meaning the magnetic part. It's how I see the genderization. So Cancer is the magnetic part, right? Then Uranus, it had been going, started retrograde back in September 6th at 1 degree Gemini, and is going to be moving forward February 2026 at 27 degrees Taurus. So we can see that it's going to be going back into Taurus, which we have this full moon in Taurus. So again, it's all about money, values, food sources, the tactile experiences with what we can taste, touch, smell, feel, right? The physical part of this reality would be Taurus. And I even think of like a Taurus field, right? How things move. It's a non-movable, I would say, energy that becomes fixed in our perspective. That's how we can be able to touch things, to be able to have an experience of things, is because of the fixed Taurus energy. And then, of course, Saturn, we can see its retrograde started July 13th at 1 degrees Aries, and it's going to be moving forward direct at the end of November. So it's this interesting sort of paradox where, we've got Saturn and Mercury sort of retrograde at the same time and going to be moving forward both in water. And I believe some astrologers have been calling this a grand water trine, if you look at the astrology. Now I'm going to be looking here at, make sure you guys can see the wheel. So I'm still sharing, and I'm going to be going to, this is right here, November 5th. This is the astrology wheel with, I guess there's Sagittarius on the ascendant, which I wanted to do Aries, but that's okay. We'll just roll with it. You can see that Mars is at 0 degrees, and it's exactly opposite Uranus in Gemini at 0 degrees retrograde. And so this is where this push-pull, right? Because as I was even learning the language to speak on the energies that I'm feeling, there's a bit of contradiction energy where everything is just a story, right? Gemini, the mind, language, how we speak. In Uranus, wanting to tell something in a different way, right? A unique periphery. Uranus is all about something different. It's the future, it's change, it's unexpected insights. And with the opposition Sagittarius, it's about belief. What do you believe to be true? What have your beliefs been up into this now moment? And then, of course, the sun is in Scorpio, shining a light on what's ready to be transformed right next to Sagittarius, because Sag follows Scorpio. So after the transformation that needs to happen with what? Values. Taurus is your literal toric field, how you see your body, how you see your physical matter, how you're experiencing your physical plane of existence. What do you value? Perhaps in the past you valued money until you get into deep ancestral wisdom and you realize you can't eat money, you can't breathe money. Money is just a tool. And so how has the tool been of Taurus, of the money, is what denotes the value, how has that been utilized? And what needs to transform? What's being illuminated? What values are dropping away? Because Sagittarius is saying, you know what, I'm going to take action because I don't longer believe what I used to believe. Uranus is coming in, and again, this opposition, but it's also, I see a complementary energy because Uranus is pulling from Sag, from Mars, taking action, and Sag is also pulling from Gemini, right? So they're having this cosmic dance, this cosmic conversation about what is real, what is truth. Are the words that I'm using to express reality even my words? Are they even real? Is this something that I inherited? This is also, inheritance has to go with the Saturn, which is the past, and Pisces, the last sign of the zodiac. It's the last of this belief system because Pisces also has to do with religion, spirituality. 12th house matters. So, as the end of religious beliefs are dying away, think of like a dinosaur, right? The story of the dinosaur. Again, if you're still believing millions of years this happened and whatever, we know that there's endings. There's endings and beginnings. Endings is represented by Pisces, beginnings is represented by Aries. And with Saturn, it's the ending of structure, of structures of what? Of the mind, of the constructs, of early education, of what we've been taught to believe. Because our parents taught them to believe that, and their parents taught them to believe that, right? So we've just been inheriting these beliefs that may or may not be real anymore. And so Uranus is coming in and saying, look, be willing to let all of it go, all the constructs of the mind. Now, what's interesting in this release process, and I'm going to be transparent here, you can feel like you're almost going crazy, that there's this, because if you're ungrounded, it's like, well, what do I believe? If I don't even believe, everything that's been taught, if I say, for example, I don't believe NASA, right? I don't believe that there's a flat earth or there's a round earth. I don't know what to believe. I don't know who's telling the truth. What story's being told? Why have we never gone back to the moon, right? How come we're still replaying stories and the footage of 1960s that now looks like a Kubrick film, right? It just looks, when you can see and your third eye is on, you're just seeing past the illusion, past the old media constructs that's telling a story. And so if we went to the moon in 1969 and haven't been back to the moon since, why? What's there? Is the moon really that far away, or is it in a plane of existence? Is it something that exists more local, right? And why? Why would somebody lie about this? Why would we have these governing systems? And that's all again represented by Saturn and Pluto, plutocracy. Who's been controlling consciousness? Who's been telling the narrative as it's been told up into this now time moment? Even the history books. Are we willing to even let go of what we were taught historically, right? Like these big monolithic buildings. I'm thinking of Tartaria. And we've been told they were built in the 1800s when we had carts and buggies. And if you go and you travel, right? This is also Sagittarius. You travel to these places yourself. You see, there's no freaking way that a human being in the 1800s could have built these huge monolithic structures with horse and buggy. It no longer makes sense. So when you start out, and this is why I also value traveling, guys, Sagittarius, exploring, even exploring within your own mind. Again, opposition Gemini. If you're willing to explore and let all of it go, you can almost feel like you're going crazy because you're releasing the construct. So this is where this groundedness is coming through. Taurus is coming in to say, look, there are new ideas, new physical models of the universe that are going to be shown to us about how this reality is transforming into. And so with that, you need to stabilize. So the stabilization for me has been actually working with Earth, with nature herself, because nature is, to me, the most stable aspect of this realm, right? So sitting with the tree, holding a crystal, using an essential oil, eating things from the earth that have not been artificially imbibed with, right? Because my inner guidance system, I no longer make reference to outer guides or ascended masters or angels or any of that because it's all self, right? My philosophy that I value, the thing that has steadfast with me, that is my anchor point. It's like the fulcrum, right? The middle path, that centered tree has been all is self. It's all me. It's all you. It's all us. It's all we. There is no construct outside of that that does not involve some aspect of self. So that's been my grounder. That's been my stabilizing force. How I can also rectify within my own gnosis. How do I let it all go and yet still stabilize with the inner knowing that's within inside of me? And at some points you do feel crazy. At some points, especially when you're looking at this reality going, I don't believe anything that I'm seeing outside of me. I remember my dad, a Virgo, saying that to me years ago. He's like, never believe anything you see and only half of what you hear. And I thought he had that inverted. Well, never believe anything you hear and only half of what you see. And I'm realizing, no, he was wise in that this, what you're seeing, is an illusion. It's a hologram, it's a projection. And that projection has been trained and indoctrinated from a very young age. So now that he's transitioned on the other side, he's telling me, everything I taught you, including that statement, let it all go because it's not what you think. And so finding the truth means, for me, and stabilizing the truth within is going within. Not allowing myself to get distracted by the outside noises, outside media. Look at it for entertainment purposes only and then make the agreement, do I want to agree with this reality or not? And again, as I sit with nature more often and more coherently, nature has her own voice. And it's the voice deep within me, the nature of me, that is speaking through the natural world, that seems to be so infinitely complex yet so simple at the same time. And the more I can sit with that inner complexity, there's also that paradoxical simplicity that comes through. And again, I'm trying to do my best to use the language. Mercury's in Sagittarius right now, to have these philosophical conversations about reality in which there is no really reality. Every person carries within them their own reality construct based on their own genome, but their own configuration. If you're looking at this wheel, right, this samsara wheel, which is also the will, it's constructed to be a certain way. Think of like a house, right? So each of us have a different construct. Our houses are all constructed differently, but yet it's still a house, right? Still where we house the energy. So I'm going to leave this to you to play with in your own gnosis, your own consciousness. Oh, here comes Tanner. I think he's done. You can hear him clicking away here. Come on in, Tanner. We're playing with some astrology here. Come on in, buddy. Which, by the way, pets rule 6th house. So my dog Tanner's a Taurus, and I think it's hilarious. Taurus supposedly is one of the longest living signs of the zodiac, which he's a Taurus and he's 17 years old, so I can testify to that. He's got those longevity codes. Tanner doesn't take anything too serious. He just likes to be. And he teaches me through his own presence, just being is good enough. It's not so much the doing. The doing is the pleasure. The doing is us getting to co-create this reality, but it's really the beingness, which is consciousness itself, playing in this avatar, playing in this realm, which is just a fun construct. Anyway, come sit down, Tanner. Come on, honey. Come lay down. Good boy. So, all right. So carrying on. We can also see we've got this trine happening exact. We've got Saturn, which is right here at the bottom, and Pisces is exactly trining Jupiter, which we know Jupiter is getting ready to go retrograde. We saw that happening 11/11. So it really has to do with foundation. It has to do with our foundational constructs, what our family taught us to believe, what we were taught to believe in early childhood about how this reality works. Again, Sagittarius is coming in and saying, you know what, and Mars taking action. Are you willing to release everything you think you know to make room for the unknown? And to lead into the unknown, because the sun is in Scorpio. It's very unknown. It's very mysterious. It's things that are hidden. And where do we hide these things? We hide them within our own DNA, within our own cellular structure. And so for me, what I've been shown is be out in nature, Taurus, to get the truth of who you are, Scorpio, that's hidden within your own cells, within your own DNA, and let your own DNA, your own cells, your own organs, which are the planets, in my perspective, let them tell their own story. Harmonize with the frequencies that are within you. And if you find that you are disharmonious, probably because you're acidic, probably because you've got too many toxins inside of you that are residing, that are keeping you angry and pissed off and imbalanced. So again, this is also mastering Taurus, which is something else to be reflected upon. What maybe substances have you been imbibing with that are keeping you toxic, that are keeping you out of balance, that are keeping you hormonally dysregulated? Because as within, so without, as above, so below. And I do agree with that adage in the Hermeticism functionality of it, because I've seen that to be true within my own gnosis. Again, when I want clarity, I go deep within. Very rarely do I look outside of myself for truth or answers anymore. It's been a practice. The practice of going in, sitting quietly with the breath, expecting nothing, and just truly listening. It's also, again, very Gemini. It's not only speech, but it's how we hear, right? I don't know about you guys, but I've been dealing with clogged ear issues from my left, the receiving part of me, which is the feminine, right? The magnetic part. And I've understood that as I'm working with my own hearing, I've been listening through the ears of distortion. So again, I look to my outside of myself. So say, what else has been distorted that I've been listening to, right? Because if I don't have clarity in my ear, right, it's been clogged with wax or things that have been toxins that have been coagulated because of certain substances or environmental factors such as mold, mildew, things I've been exposed to. Well, how do you regulate that? You go into the body and you listen to the body about how it wants to operate, right? So now I'm learning to befriend my own body, Taurus, and ask what it needs, right? Like a best friend, what can I do for you today? How can I honor you today in this now moment? And so, and when it tells me, hey, I want to fast, I don't want any food today because I'm processing some energies from the collective field that I just need time to integrate. So how about you just go out in nature, sit under a tree, just drink some water today, and let me get clear. And if that's what my body wants, that's what I learn to give it, right? So this also might be revealed today is having a new relationship with your body, because your cells, from what I've gathered, your cells are constantly listening. Your inner structures, it's a vibrational universe. They talk about, if you want to know the secrets, right? This is what Nikola Tesla, a lot of us quote this particular quote. If you want to know the secrets to the universe, understand vibration, frequency, and sound. So, how we're sounding to ourselves, the stories we tell ourselves, even in our own thought forms, those are vibrational patterns. Those are cymatics of creation. And have these cymatical creations been distorted because you don't know how to love yourself, because you don't know how to talk to yourself in a loving way, in a way that's unconditional, that you accept yourself? This realm, we don't teach that, right? We teach judgment and criticism, and we need to, constantly buy this face cream and do this exercise to feel better. And we need this nutrition, and don't eat meat, and don't do this, and do this, and don't do. Again, it's all about alchemy. This is very much Scorpio. Everything is an alchemic process. So whether you're alchemizing through sugar, through caffeine, through alcohol, through drugs, these are the things, the predominant frequencies that we've been working with. And perhaps Mother Nature's coming in and showing us a different way, showing us to work with different herbs, different substances, different vibrational fields that exist in crystals, that exist in essential oils, that exist in, highly nutritional foods that have been, where the soil has been remediated. We're not giving ourselves antibiotics, killing off all our gut biome, all the things that are possibly have the answers within us, because we've been at war, right? We're killing things off, and that's what antibiotics do. They kill off systems. And so if you want to end the war outside of us, so we're killing each other, maybe we need to quit taking antibiotics, right? Again, this is entertainment purposes only. This is a story that's being told. And it's a story that wants to be told in a new way. And as we get ready to have Mercury going backwards in retrograde into Scorpio, we're really being invited in to become our own alchemists. And guys, I choose who my influencers are. It's the influencers who make sense to me, who are speaking of unity and speaking of oneness. I really now am being cautioned to anybody that's dogmatic in what they're speaking of. So, for example, no disrespect to vegetarians or vegans out there, but man, some of y'all are very dogmatic, right? And you're only going to be healthy if you don't eat meat. And well, it just depends on where you are in your consciousness and what alchemy you need at that time, right? And what you're alchemizing within. So I'm willing to drop everything, even what I've been told about everything, because I feel like, again, it's all a story. And if it's a story being told to sell me something so that I can spend my money, get my value, because if somebody's teaching you through fear, especially when they're talking about things such as trigger words like parasites, right? And there's all kinds of anti-parasitic cleanses out there and what the damage that parasites can do, and they can if you're out of balance with them. But parasites also serve a function too, right? So again, I always like to ask, and just is in my own exploration as of late, what's right about this? Because I just choose to see in this now moment unity in everything. And in this exploration, again, going against the grain, this is also Aquarius, releasing what I think I know and releasing the judgmental mind, which is also very Saturnian, right? This is right and this is wrong and this is good and this is bad. And we needed that to advance us to where we are now in consciousness. But what if we are transcending even that? That death is not what we think, and death is just a story. And I'm not negating the death that's happening all over the world right now and the beings that are transitioning, but I'm willing to say, I don't know if this is right or wrong or good or bad. I'm willing to release what I thought was right or wrong or good or bad because I want to make space for the unknown. Can I lean into the unknown? Can I lean into even what my conception of death is very Scorpio, of what transformation is, right? And so truth has a resonance, has a field. I call it the quickening. When I feel somebody is speaking truth or I hear truth, it's got like this vibrational ping that enlivens my body. The best way, it's like a ripple that just feels good, right? This is also feeling. I call it plasma brailing because this is very much Jupiter and Cancer. We got to feel our way through these realms because if the illusion is dying off, Saturn, the structures of what we're perceiving, right next to Neptune, which is our belief, our spirituality, if all that's dissolving away into this retrograde period, then what is left standing? How can I identify truth? Well, for me, truth feels good. It feels good in the body organically without any substances, right? I take a breath in, I think a thought, it feels good in my body. That's truth. I take a breath in, I think a thought. If it doesn't feel good in my body, if there's a dissonance or a disharmonious frequency, then that's not truth for me. I'm just going to, again, Occam's razor, the simplest explanation seems to be the correct one. I'm being like a child, right? A child's mind. And children, if you look at babies, they're very expressive. If they feel good, they'll tell you. If they don't feel good, they'll cry. And then they want to be comfortable, right? They want to have their needs met. And so approaching consciousness like a child's mind. What feels good is truth. What doesn't feel good is not true. And any story that's causing division, disempowerment, that they are doing this to us, that the governing is doing that, the yada 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 yada, whatever story of disempowerment that again creates this feeling that something is outside of you controlling you, that doesn't feel good. So therefore, in my own childlike consciousness, it's like, well, that's not true. It's just very simple. And again, I'm not trying to be right or wrong. This is just a story being told about consciousness through this own unique periphery of this Lives on Astrology channel that wanted to come through in this now moment, wanted to be just shared and connecting with whoever else is going through this process, this deeply alchemic process of dissolution, that these old constructs have to fall away so that the new can come in, whatever that may be. And it's based on a new truth, a new system. I think of the language of entropy and negentropy, right? And so the negative entropy is more of the new structures. The entropy is the dissolving. This is also the axis point, the north and south node, how I see it, how I perceive it. So, okay, I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing here and just talk to you guys because there's a lot going on here in consciousness. And if you guys are still here, thank you so much for, again, this is just an exploration of a new way to speak on astrology that puts you more into your body, that puts you more into conscious awareness that we don't know what we think we know, that this reality timeline, if we're willing to let it all go and yet stabilize by being out in nature, because it does feel very destabilizing. Again, it almost feels like you're going crazy with these concepts, with these ideas. Well, we're here to learn the North Node in Pisces. I would say channel it through artistry, channel it through a storyline, a movie, a song, right? We're here to learn Pisces. And Pisces is art. It transcends thought. It transcends the mind. It puts you into your feeling. It puts you into your, again, this is a feeling universe, right? Plasma brailing. It's like if you can't see because the projection has been disoriented, then we need to feel our way through it. That's just being coming through in this now moment. And then this feeling now moment, I'm going to take a sip of my green tea. I want to share with you, I'm going to pull a card from the Earth Magic Oracle deck. Because again, I like to do it. It's fun for me. My inner child enjoys the exploration. It's like, what's the Earth going to show me today? Through Stephen D. Farmer, who created the deck. Again, artistry, right? To put you into your own gnosis. So let's see right now. This is for anybody watching this in this now time moment, whenever it comes across you. Again, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for being part of this conversation of reality, what is real, and just using the language of astrology because it's fun. It's the language that I like to explore and continue my own gnosis with. Again, it's just a story. So what story wants to be told right now in this full moon from the Earth? The nature of us, the truth within us. What truth wants to be revealed through storytelling, through this periphery? What set of words and story structure, images want to be revealed or wants to be illuminated in this full moon? Oh, I love it. Gosh, I love these cards. They're so fun. Okay. So the card is, drum roll, Milky Way perspective. Guys, what were we just talking about? Our perspective, our reality is based on what we're perceiving. And look, it's almost like a ring. I think of it, what the image just came through right now is like being flushed down the toilet, right? Everything we think we know is just being let go of because there's a new frequency coming through. We're going into the dark, right? The void. Leaning into the unknown, which is very much Sun and Scorpio, right? Revealing which has been hidden, which has been secret, kept secret up until now, but you got to make room for it. You got to flush everything you think you know down the toilet and stabilize, because as you're starting to release these thoughts and these, and you feel like you're going crazy. I'm thinking of like Zoolander. I feel like I'm taking crazy pills. Well, we probably were if you're taking pharmaceuticals. They can create disorientation and all kinds of side effects in the body. So as we start cleaning ourselves out of these disorienting, crazy pills, whatever you're taking, it's going to make room for a new periphery, something new. So go out in nature, right? Allow yourself to do some cleansing. It's almost like it's flushing down the toilet, right? Flushing out your system, allowing yourself to fast a little bit. Maybe, disengaging from chemistry altogether for a little bit. Let the body reset. I found a lot of value in that in my own personal practice of just resetting. And again, if you want to do something different, if you want to have a different experience of something, you've got to do something different. And with this fixed earth energy, in our need to stabilize, we like consistency. It feels safe. But with this axis point of the sun in Scorpio, it's like, yeah, but you've got to transform. You've got to feel your way through this. And your feeling state might be changing you. So that fixed feeling state is like allow yourself to continue to feel into every now moment and to be transformed by what you're experiencing in the now, because the now is the only thing that exists in my perspective, because everything else is just a story that doesn't exist. It's the past is doesn't exist and the future doesn't exist. All that exists is right what's here right now, right? So again, deep diving into your own gnosis with that. And the next, transitioning into the shaman's dream, because this is all just a dream. It's the waking dream. It's the dream of consciousness. We are dreaming ourselves into existence. We are all sacred dreamers dreaming the world into being. That's what the deck says, which I think is really resonates as well. So with this new dream state, as we are willing to let go of what we think we know, again, that's what this full moon is about, allegedly. Full moon is the cosmic exhale. It's releasing, it's letting things go. What do you think what you think you know in the physical realm? What are we ready to let go of? And what is this new dream that's coming in to be revealed through the Scorpio axis, right? What is hidden that wants to be revealed in this dreaming state? What wants to be shown in this now moment, in this full moon in Taurus illumination? One card, please. The Garden of Venus, rest and renewal. Now it's interesting because Venus rules Taurus, right? Again, going out in nature. I see the 2 and the 5, which is the 7. 7 has to do with Neptune, our spirituality. And being out in nature, it's the grounding point. If you want to ascend into the higher realms, you've got to have a grounding point. So being by a tree, being by nature, holding on, being grounded is what helps you to ascend further and get into a more harmonious flow state. Again, what tends to be it's a simple explanation, Occam's razor, right? The simplest explanation tends to be the correct one. So something as simple as going out, breathing under a tree, allowing yourself to just, I've done this before, just stare at the trees and let the wind sway it, because the wind is Mercury. And so the configuration of the mind is always going to be talking to you through the realm of the tree, which to me I see as our nervous system, our own inner vibratory state, right? Our nerves, the cellular walls is part of the trees. I mean, it's kind of hard to explain how I see it, but that's how I personally experience nature. It's the nature of self that's being reflected through nature, the organic aspect of me that's telling a very beautiful story, and how we're all connected, because nature is symbiotic. Nature always is connected to everything and everyone, just like the mycelium, right, underneath the trees. And don't be surprised if you're looking and you're thinking mycelium, and then you see a mushroom pop out. You're like, whoa, where did that come from? Well, that's you thinking about the connectivity, and then the mushroom is a representation, right? Because all is self. It's all you. So anyway, I know this is a very sort of mystical transmission that wanted to come through today. And if you're still here, thank you so much for being here. And if you want to continue with the story of astrology told in this way, it's going to be a new periphery. Again, it's just a story. So what story are you telling yourself now? What story are you willing to release? The values you may have once held dear, that you were taught to value by your ancestors, that may no longer hold true. And so be okay to be willing to release it, to let it go, to transmute it, to transform it, because new cymatics are coming online, new geometries, new patterns of existence want to emerge. And so think of it like digestion, right? Taurus is about eating, drinking, the physical, and then it goes down to the excrement where you digest it through Scorpio and you release it. You send it back to the earth. And that's what's happening in this now moment. We're sending things back to the earth through the sacred excrement, which is old processes, old things that consumed, ideas, thought forms, food, artifices, right? Even the word artificial is artifice, artifacts, old structures, old beliefs, old religion, indoctrination. That's being released. It's been digested. Now it's in the colon and it's ready to be the next part of it, which is very much Scorpio, right? It has to do with the the excrement, right? What gets fermented, because nothing really dies. It just goes back into the earth and becomes something else, becomes something new seeds, new creations. So anyway, that's what wants to be transmitted in this now time moment. Thank you so much for playing, for being here, a part of the consciousness, wherever you're at in your consciousness. There is no right or wrong or good or bad. There is simply is. And I wish you a now isness that is peaceful and empowering, because it's just a story, guys. This is all just a story. So thank you for listening to this story through Livzenastrology. So much love to you guys, and come back if you want to hear more stories. Something maybe a little different periphery of the way we've been exploring astrology. I'm really calling out for community that is willing to drop what they think they know, even astrologically, to make room for perhaps a new story. Because I feel like that's where we're going, especially when 2026 happens and it's a 1 year, this is a 9 years completion. I'm a 9 astrologically, so I'm completing the cycles within myself. So yeah, beginnings and endings, it's all part of the dance. So thank you for beginning this chapter with me and ending this astrological chapter with me. And let's just see where it goes. Join every week, every strong, for new contemplations, conversations. Again, this is more anecdotal storytelling, and I hope this empowers you, gets you into your own thought process about what do you know to be true, your own inner gnosis. Let's explore together. All right, guys. Thank you so much for